Yeah, thanks, Gunnar. That's absolutely fantastic. We had David Bumble Lloyd on a call not so long ago. One of the things he said rather surprised me. He said he thought that in the not too distant future, umpires would be giving yellow cards out on the field of play for like abusive language, and people would have to leave the field when they receive one of those. I mean, do you think that's likely? Is it something you would welcome?
I certainly would welcome. I think maybe David's going down the route of club cricket, minor counties cricket, second 11 cricket. I haven't, to be perfectly honest with you, I have not seen issues in first class cricket and international cricket where I would think, oh, this guy's got to go. There has been an odd occasion where I've asked a player to leave the field for 10 minutes to just get himself cooled down a little bit. But that's normally the way it works. You just move it on. But I've got two sons that play club cricket. I have been to watch some of those. I went to watch a game a few years ago, and hopefully nobody's listening to this who was umpiring in it. Slough versus Burnham. That was horrific. That was red cards. That was more like watching Arsenal trying to play football at the moment. At the end of the day, some of the language and some of the actions was dreadful. And if I would have been the umpire and the two umpires there, I'd have abandoned that game and said, right, if you're not going to behave, we're moving on. I normally agree with Bumble, but this one I can't agree with, I'm afraid. I don't see that. Man management, I believe, is one of your highest skills as an umpire.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Michael Redman if he can unmute himself. And Michael, can you ask the next question?
Yes, Gunnar, I really enjoyed your book. I really thought it was really illuminating. But I think you've got another book in you, and that is for new umpires, even though I'm ancient, who's starting out. Can you give us a few personal tips in the new book, how we go about it, and how we get on with people, and what happens, when players are stroppy? I think you would be brilliant in writing a book like that.
That's very kind. I'm not sure whether I've got another book in me after the last time. As you'll probably find out, and you read in it, I was in a pub every morning at 9 o'clock doing that with Bruce. Basically drinking coffee, put my hands up to that one, which doesn't happen very often. I think with umpiring, and this is what I'm saying about this new generation that coming through, is that they have a more tolerant attitude to some of the way that the younger generation believe they should behave. Now, at that side of it, with it all, the thing is, with I try to umpire, I try to listen to everyone. Whether there's a guy at mid-off, whether there's a guy in a net, I would ask questions. What's David Warner like? What is Virat Kohli like? What is Teresa Pereira like? And I wanted to find out how they ticked. And I think the new generation of umpires is working towards that, not standing there, because when I first started playing the game, the umpire was the sole judge. That was it. Whatever he said, it could be the worst decision or the worst thing in life that's happened. He was right. That was it. And some of it was incredible. But at the end of it now, I think this generation are coming through. But the biggest thing about it, I find, is that the generation that I came through with didn't want to talk to players. And I couldn't understand that. I really couldn't understand it. And what I do say, as you said, you read the book, is that I would spend my days off, they'd all go off sightseeing or golfing or whatever. I was always at the ground for a minimum of 2 hours a day, a minimum. An hour with one team and an hour with the next team. Because I used to practice in one team, practice in the morning, one team practice in the afternoon. And I'd go and practice. So I'd stand there at the bowler's end and practice. But in the meantime, I'm watching people and listening to people, see how they react. can I talk to this person? Because the net is easier to get it wrong than on a cricket field. Some people don't like being spoken to. They just don't like it. They want to just solely concentrate. So if I get that gist, then I would wait for them to speak. I wouldn't even go anywhere. You know, I'd stand there, but and politely say good morning or good afternoon or whatever. But there are other players that love speaking. You know, you could go for an hour's net with David Warner and you'd still be there 5 hours later chatting about the horses that he just, you know, lost his money on or whatever. You know, to me, that is because they actually then find out about you. He ain't a bad bloke, him. You know, and I think that's where you win it over. And going back to Neil Baton, he does that brilliantly. He talks to people and he makes people laugh, but he talks at the right time, which I think is the skill. But there's sometimes, doesn't matter, it's like having one of your own children. Doesn't matter how much you try and speak to them and tell them what you think is right or wrong, they ain't going to listen. So with that, you've just got to do something about it. But I was never a lover of coding players. That was tedious. That was wrong. I hope that answers that. I better start writing a new book right as we finish now.
Sounds like it. Right, I've got Ray Greenall. Ray.
Hello, Gunnar.
Hello, Ray. How are you, mate?
I'm very good, thank you very much.
Good.
I just
You're about to go up to see Cape Canaveral there, mate.
Yeah, that's right. I just wonder sometimes if you ever take into account the number of reviews that a side has left when you're making a decision. Sometimes you just wonder if to get the right decision, it would be advisable to take into account how many reviews a side has left.
Look, I think that's a fantastic question, and I don't think you're being mischievous either. I think you get to a point where, you know, teams have got 2 left. There's a 50-50. I think that's the Ray. To be perfectly honest with you, I think that's the mindset of the new generation. You know, the ones that are just coming through now, who have dealt solely in their international careers with DRS. They understand DRS a much better than the older generation. I never entered my mind because mine was a gut feeling. If I, you know, they say about your eyes and your ears, mine was, you know, a cricketing decision was, I think that's out. If I'm shown to be wrong, which I was quite a lot, is at the end of it, you know, you just got to eat a bit of humble pie. But I do think where you're coming from is not the wrong place. I do believe that maybe last year the Ashes? Good God, Ray, please help me out here. With Stokes at Headingley, I think Joel probably thought to himself, well, they've got a decision, they've got a review left, let's give this not out, or whichever way it went. And I think that's where it was. I think it was pushed more in the limelight by that decision, whether he was out LBW or whether he hit it. I think Joel played the card, which is, mate, in that position, I think my knees would have been trembling too much to worry about what card I had in my hand, because that is forgotten. The standard of the umpire in that game, under that pressure, was extraordinary, and it goes back to moving on from your question there, but it goes to another way where you can miss things is the World Cup. You know, I would say that when some clever person, a former umpire from Australia, 2 days later says, well, they've got it wrong. Well, why didn't he say that 2 days previous? You know, everyone can make that. But right at the end of it, the modern generation now plays the machine. And I think you understand what I'm trying to say there. The machine now is Big Brother overlooking you. We thought at first it was going to destroy the game. I think it's enhanced it. But it was brought in for the howler, which the level of umpiring now, there isn't many howlers, touching wood. There isn't many. So now I'm loath when I see a 50-50 call. I think that's wrong. You should have your review taken away because that's a timeout for a team. And that was in the era where after 80 overs, you had them topped up again. So if you had 2 left in from the 75th to the 80th, you just played them. And one you might get and one might not. Unfortunately, if you're a football man, Ray, you're pulling everything out at the moment as toenails with VAR, because that's how DRS came in. They said it was only going to be for the howler, the goal line technology. Now you're seeing goals disallowed that we all want to go and watch for nonsense. But they'll get it right in the end. But that's where referees now are playing that machine, the same as umpires are. You know, you can do a game with 16 cameras, or you can do a proper game, you know, the adult India versus Australia, Melbourne Boxing Day, with 46 cameras and 3 roving cameras, as I said, watching that cricket ball or watching anybody. So, you know, I think times comes where you change your outlook to umpiring. So it becomes a little bit more technical and not just out or not out. I hope that explains it.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Thank you very much. I've got David Allison. Can you unmute yourself?
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, yes. Sorry, Ian, to change the subject from your fascinating talk on umpiring. You mentioned Gatting, of course, the great Middlesex era. We all think in Middlesex, we all think, supporters, that Middlesex have never achieved their potential after that. And we think there are dressing room issues. Did you find the same?
Now or when I was
when
there?
You were there, yes.
Oh, no, we wanted to win. No, the only issues that were in our changing room were how are we going to win this game? How are we going to do it? And let's just get out there and do the job properly. If there was an argument in that changing room, it was dealt with there and then. No one left that changing room. No one left that changing room until that argument or that discussion was completed. That was the one great thing about Mike, really. He had 10 other individuals underneath him. Few old wise heads like Clive Radley, people like that, plus a brilliant coach, Mike Smith, of course, God rest his soul. They were frank discussions. Absolute, I promise you now, those were frank. You know, if you had something to say, the opportunity was there to say it, whether you were a youngster or whether you were a senior pro. But once that conversation had finished, wow, let's go to the tavern, have a couple of drinks, and tomorrow's another day. It was a wonderful, if you wanted to play hard-nosed cricket, which I was wanting to do, you know, from the age of 15, just turning 16 as my debut, to when I finished, you know, cricket on the field was extraordinarily good. Extraordinarily good.
Thanks, Ian. Maybe it's a bit different now.
Oh, I don't know. I don't go into change rooms now unless someone's offering me a drink.
Thanks.
That's a pleasure.
Thank you very much. And I've got Peter West, who's got a question. Peter, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, good evening, everyone, and good evening, Gunnar, and to Bruce. First of all, can I say how very much I enjoyed reading the book. It was a book that I found very, very difficult to put down. Very easy reading and very, very enjoyable, and a lot of very interesting stuff in there. So thank you for that. What I'd be interested to know, I seem to recall, Ian, that you were watching you playing for Walton and Hersham in a game away to Kingstonian when you were in goal at one end and Graham Roop was in goal for Kingstonian. I just wonder whether you have any memories of any chats between the two of you at that game, and whether you how you came about playing for Walton, because in the book that was a chapter that you didn't quite have room for, as far as I can see.
Peter, you've got an unbelievable memory. I remember like that was yesterday. There was a guy who played up front for Kingstone, and I played for Walton. The reason I played for Walton was a good friend of mine, Bob Breen, who used to be manager of Slough Youth. And when I finished at Arsenal during the winter, he said, "Look, come on, I'm a manager at Walton. Come and play at Walton." And if you remember, it was at where the running track was, and it wasn't the most salubrious place you go and have a game of football, but Walton Town was beautiful. So he got me, Bob Breen, he got me to go over there and play. And anyway, this game we played at Kingstonian. There was a guy up front, big West Indian fella called Johnny Griffiths. Honestly, this man was a nightclub bouncer, John. And I remember catching a ball 8 yards out, and John put me through the net, through the back of the stand, everywhere. But we became incredibly good friends, and we still have a laugh now. Absolute laugh our socks off. The one question I have for you is, how well do you know Graham Roop?
Well,
Did you get that? Sorry.
Yeah, I never knew him personally, but he was a great goalkeeper. He was the only goalkeeper that kept Dickie Guy out of the Wimbledon team when Wimbledon had their great run, playing Leeds and the like.
Oh, yeah.
And he was he was fantastic as a cricketer for Surrey. I thought his slip fielding was good. He was a jolly good standby wicket keeper. Decent bat. He was a jolly good player, and it was a great shame that he passed away as early as he did. He was a fine sportsman as far as I was aware.
Yeah, the reason I asked you that, because part of your question was, did I have a chat with Graham Roop after the game? Now, I remember that being a 3 o'clock kickoff, and you would have been in the bar at Kingstonian. It was a lovely ground, Kingstonian, as you will well remember. And when you said to me, "Do I know Graham Roop and did you have a chat?" Graham Roop didn't take breath, whether you were playing cricket, golf, tennis, squash. I reckon that night, we had a few beers, Graham and I reckon I got the last train back to Windsor. Roop, he was off to Roehampton Way and whatever, so he dropped me at the station. Man, the man was a genius, and you rightly say, Peter, that he's taken away from us too early, because he was another one like Bob Warmer. You could put them at one end of the bar, both of those two, and just stand in the middle for the rest of the night and just listen to them talk. They were wonderful people. Graham, you rightly so, was a very fine goalkeeper. He was a very, very good cricketer, played in a very good Surrey team. I think, personally, he would have made a good umpire. And I always said that to him, because I used to see a lot of him at amateur football, because he had the personality to do it. He wasn't afraid to talk to people, but he was also very clued up about the game. He loved the game. He loved it dearly. And I do miss Roopy, because, I used to sit on the terraces or stand on the terraces with him. He'd come to Windsor or whatever. He was a wonderful character. But when you said to me, did I have a conversation with him? Well, Jesus. He was a good man. He was a good man.
Well, thank you very much indeed.
Oh, I'll tell you what, I can't believe there's someone still alive that watched me play football.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Peter. Yeah, Graham Root, one of the great slip catchers of my youth. So I've now got Basil Man asking a question. Basil, can you unmute?
Yes, thank you. Good evening. I've enjoyed tonight's talk. I also saw you playing for the Arsenal, so it shows how old I am.
Blimey.
Yeah.
Blimey.
But what I really wanted to say was, I got into umpiring at the age of 50 and did club cricket. And I, listening to you, it was one of the wonderful achievements that I did. I never believed when somebody said to me, why don't you umpire? We talk cricket. And a neighbour of mine said, and I did a couple of matches, and then I got involved with the Ealing Umpires Association. And it has taken me both to Uganda and Israel, apart from club cricket in England. And to me, and in those days, O.S. Shah was playing for, I umpired most of Wickham House second 11. And in those days, Ian Shah was starting, Ben Scott, James Hewitt, the Colemans. And I really don't have too much of a question, more of a payment to pay to say how much. Thank you for your talk this evening. And I've just loved every minute of putting on that white coat, not being in the top ones. I never expected to be there, but I've done schools at the Oval and I've done the cross arrows at Lord's. So that's more of a comment than anything else. But I've really enjoyed your talk. And I was very interested in your things about the Arsenal, because I knew I used to go to all those home matches with my father. And, you know, that's some wonderful teams they have now. And I'm so upset when I watch them now. Anyway, thank you once again. It's not really a question, it's just a comment, but I really enjoyed your talk this evening.
Thank you. Wickham House was an incredible club, wasn't it?
Yeah.
An incredible club. Ken Cross, was it? Ken Cross?
That's right. Ken was there. I umpired with Ken.
Yeah. What he did there was unbelievable. The players that came out of that and representing Middlesex at youth cricket, I always could rely on Ken to produce me a couple of players a year, and then obviously he pulled Oace out the woodwork. Ben Scott did a very good job for Middlesex for keeping wicket and Worcester. Alan Coleman's doing a very, very good job as coach. I understand that he's an exceptionally good coach. Jamie Hewitt is in Hertfordshire coaching.
He's at Haberdashers now.
Is he? Oh, wonderful. Well, he deserves a good job because he's a beautiful young man.
Yeah.
But that club was an outstanding one. But what I did enjoy by your tone of voice was the way that you got enjoyment out of umpiring. And I think that is what people are missing. That's what I got. You put it slightly more eloquently than me, Baz, but I got enjoyment out of it. I went back to my room or back to wherever I was at night and thought to myself, do you know what? I've had a wonderful day.
The good thing about mine at the level I was, that we didn't really have any trouble. It was that the boys wanted to play, and I really didn't have any. I obviously, like you, gave people out when they thought they were in, obviously. But I've had some wonderful experiences, and cricket to me, it's just, you know, came into my life late, but I've loved every minute of it. And Ken Cross I knew very well.
Yeah,
the thing was that at Wickham House, you know, they had the old scoreboard. The year I retired and I found I wasn't feeling too well, we've got a lovely new scoreboard now, electronic, and we had the old one that kept collapsing. Anyway, thank you very much.
Brilliant.
That's fantastic. Thank you Thank you, Basil. Fantastic stuff. I just hope you weren't umpiring when I played against the Cross Arrows and David Sales hit something like 150, most of them off my bowling. So
that wasn't me. That wasn't me. And, basically,
thank you for your question. And is there anybody else who has got a question for Gunnar? Otherwise, before I do a quick vote of thanks, I'm just going to go back to Bruce, who I think has got a point he wanted to make about the paperback version of the book.
Yeah, Gunnar's been really good all year doing loads of publicity for this book, but every time I've listened to him on a podcast or an interview or a chat like tonight, he always comes out with 3 or 4 stories that I've never heard before. Unfortunately, because the book's done so well, the publisher want a paperback edition to come out sometime next year, probably in the summer. So, Michael, your question about that you asked Gunnar earlier, I'll probably get him to talk a little bit about that maybe, and we'll include that in the paperback edition. But that's coming out next year. But the hardback is still available at all good bookshops.
That's a lie.
Oh, what, the bit about the bookshops?
Yeah.
Well, it's available on Amazon, definitely.
Well, it will make a great Christmas present for anyone who hasn't read it yet. I think quite a lot of our members have, but it's a great book, and certainly recommend it to everybody. So I just want to say thank you, really, Gunnar and Bruce. I did have a quick peek on the internet as we were talking, and it was Colin Todd, wasn't it, who played with McFarlane? And
yeah,
he was 5'7.5". So there we go. I also saw that David Lai, who you mentioned, he ended up playing 10 List A games and 73 championship matches for Devon. So
for Devon, yeah.
I
went to see him. I snuck up on him last year. I heard he was playing for Exmouth, and I was down there with my wife. We stayed in a beautiful place in Budley Salterton. So we went for the rock walks and whatever. So one day, it was a Saturday morning, I thought, right, I'm going to sneak up on him, and there he was, larger than life. He was just such a lovely boy. He really, if people can remember the Darling Buds and May on TV, that was his home life. Lived on a farm. I'll tell you just quickly the story with David. After all those runs he got for us, he went back to the farm during the winter, and he was repairing a trailer, and the driver took the trailer away, and the trailer collapsed, and he went through and snapped his knee. And when that news came through to me, I was just praying that he was physically all right. But as you see now that he's played minor counties cricket, he's been successful. But one thing you will never take away from him, he was a charming, charming young man.
Well, they are great memories. Thank you very much. And it's been a fantastic talk. It's a shame that we weren't in the same room together, and hopefully next year we'll all be able to get back to cricket games and to hear speakers like yourselves. But until then, I want to wish everyone a happy Christmas, and I want to say thank you, Gunnar and Bruce, for a fantastic evening. Fabulous stuff.